All right, so we're here with Cameron Perez, all the way in Orlando, Florida, looking at a potential project here. We're going to talk through it, walk through it, see about getting a design rendering put together, and super excited about it. It's going to be a good call, Cameron.
Yes, sir. I'm
What's
excited.
got about 100 wide and about 220 long overall for the property.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so talk me through your meeting with her, what your thoughts are.
We walked out, we sat just off of the pool, and I asked her, I said, when you sit out here, where are you typically going to sit? And she said, we're hanging out right here. There's a little small paver patio that they've got a grill on. She said that's where her husband cooks if he's going to be outside. There is like an old brick garden bed. That's kind of where her and her son used to do their gardening. And so let's honor him there. Let's do some sort of memorial garden there, maybe a small water feature making noise that's, going to add some ambiance to this patio area where you're already hanging out anyways. To the right, there's another wooden deck that's starting to rot, so that needs to get replaced. That would be like another nice seating area. And then there's an old brick pathway that starts to bring you into the woods. And we had talked about having a bigger water feature kind of right there centered with the pool, so that way you would see it when you walk in the front door, you see straight to the pool and you would see straight to that water feature. And inside, you walk through the living room, and in the living room, her chair is kind of positioned to where you would see that water feature behind the pool if we give it some height and elevation. So I was thinking some urns or some vases, something nice and tall that would get a good sound going 360 degrees. And then as you walk through the woods, she's got a spot where they hang up a hammock. They have a makeshift fire pit area, but she liked the ideas of when we were kind of talking of having like different little vignettes of like different little spaces kind of tucked in the woods where you could kind of wander back there and maybe there's a bench in one little spot or a table in another spot with a couple of chairs. We talked about probably just adding in some bigger shrubs and mixing in maybe a little bit of bamboo in there to give her some privacy. If the neighbors ever chop down the trees, then she'll still have some shade for that area as well. There's a privacy fence around the pool equipment, but the boards are rotted at the bottom, so I was thinking of redoing that. The pool deck, she said they recently had repainted. She's not a huge fan because it's much lighter now. It's got like red bricks for the coping on the pool, and if we redo all the wood deck with like a paver patio, I'm not sure how well all that's going to blend together. So a lot of landscaping, not a crazy amount of hardscaping.
I mean, there's a decent amount of decking there right now, right?
Yeah.
So just in taking out all of that decking, and then when you walk out of that back, is there a piece of a concrete patio still there?
That's an older paver patio, and then you've got a redwood deck, and then you've got concrete pad for the actual pool deck. So you got like three different
materials.
Yeah, none of them are really working well together.
Well, I mean, it's definitely not out of question to have some conversation in regards to the pool deck and pool coping, right? Because there's some things to consider from a construction standpoint when we have to come in there and we're butting everything up to a 20-year-old concrete pool deck. So you take a brand new patio, you excavate everything down, get your stone in, compact it, tamp it, and try not to compromise any of that existing concrete is a little challenging. It can be done, but then you also end up kind of undermining that concrete as well in a sense, because you want to get your pavers but all the way up to that concrete, right? And then you're tied to all of those existing grades as well. So, the pavers have got to meet flush to the concrete all the way around, just like that pool deck is right now. So sometimes you come into a project like this and you're making such a drastic renovation and change, you start considering what's at the center of it all. Yeah, it's 20-year-old painted concrete, and you start looking at the overall ROI on the job and project and the finish and how seamless and the transformation and, not being tied to all of that existing. And, it's a lot more work. Absolutely. But in another 10, 15 years, they've got this absolutely oasis lagoon style backyard. What are they going to do with that concrete? At some point, it's got to go. I definitely got your vibe with the gardening area, memorial space, incorporating something there with that. And then the water feature, that's where the design kind of comes into the equation. And when we put a design together, give her the fountainscape option, but then also throw an option in there where we're plumbing everything out of the pool and we've got fountains and spillways pouring into the pool. There's some options there. I like the natural pathway park kind of trail. I think that's where, based on your video, they do some trees every year, it sounds like.
They have like a tradition. She was showing me a couple of them where I guess it's like a gift that they give to the family.
So I think it would be really cool if in the design we followed that trail that you've kind of painted out and break up these little mini spaces and almost do some perennial gardens that will have space, almost like space holders for some of the underplanting trees that we want to incorporate over the years. Some of the more unique specimen kind of stuff that will do good in that kind of shaded underplanting. Then we make it look like it is almost, in a sense, a memorial pathway park-like, setting. Get the decomposed granite or the natural stone in there. I seen the fire pit potential back there. Was that something that they seemed intrigued about?
She has like it's like a couple of cinder blocks that they've kind of thrown together, and she said they love doing a fire pit back there. And I said, well, we could definitely make this a nice usable space where it's very inviting. Like right now it's there, you can see it,
but you don't want to go back there.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling her. I was like, if we can design this to where, we've got something that you see from inside of the house that pulls you out of the house, and then now we're pulling you to the right because we see this memorial garden, and then now you see something else, and now you see this pathway, and then you get pulled down the pathway, and then now you find the fire pit, and then it's like, oh, now there's another pathway. Like, you can't see everything from one spot, but everything has a reason and a purpose, and we keep pulling you down to where you actually use these things. We don't just come up with this big elaborate plan and then you're like, oh, I never use any of this stuff.
Arbors, trellises, swinging benches, bird baths, little mini fountain, like whatever fits. And that's where I think we can definitely take out some of the smaller stuff that's there and just focus on leaving all of the bigger stuff and then have room to just landscape it, but make it a functional piece of the yard because it is so much space that they actually do. They're drawn back there. They want to hang out back there. So I follow you there. Let's talk a little bit about the hardscape, right? When you're generating costs and estimates on hardscape, like generally speaking, what materials are you quoting out and what's the cost like per square foot? Or
so far, just because I don't have enough consistency with the hardscapes and the manpower that I feel comfortable doing the hardscapes, I have a buddy that will do them for me, and either I can send him out and he'll meet with the clients and figure out what they want, or I can say, hey, this is what I want, I just need you to do it. Usually he's around like $19 a square foot, so that's what I quote whenever I'm figuring out for hardscapes. And I know that he's making money off of me. So if I can get to the point where I can either find a crew that I just say, hey, I already ordered the material, I already got it delivered, all I need you to do is lay the base and set the pavers, I would love to be able to get to that point because I think I can make money off of that too.
What does his team look like?
He just subs out the work. He's got like 4 guys that he's got a pretty good connection with, and he just brings them on. I've run into them a couple times and they don't have like company shirts or company trucks.
Right.
So I think he'll move the material for them. I think he'll get the pavers on site. He's got like a full-size skid, and then they kind of do all the manpower work.
Here, generally, you're at $30 to $40 a square foot. That's why I was intrigued to see what your budget or what you're costing. Now, at the same time, these aren't like clay brick pavers. This is Unilock. Belgard's all right, but for the most part, Unilock, Belgard, right? It's a more premier company. You're spending $5, $6, $7 at least per square foot just on the paver. Then you take into consideration your base, your prep, and then actually laying the paver then actually finishing the paver. I usually start at 35, 40 bucks a square when I'm giving these general estimates. A lot of your paver costs goes into not only the cost, like the type and the quality of the paver, but in the application underneath the paver, the base, the prep. Did they put 6 to 8 inches of stone? Did they use the right stone? Are they building it all on sand? Are they filling all the gaps with sand? Like, is it all going to wash away and sink and settle and move and shift? Like that's where, because we've done this for so long, we have a certain process that we follow with making sure that we're not cutting any costs or cutting any corners when it comes to prepping the foundation for the paver, right? So that in itself could be the difference between $10 every square foot. Just something to consider there.